You know, we're watching the boats as they leave and the calliope sound and the people waving on board.
We've been spending most of the show going like this, waving behind
to people as they go by. It is an absolutely gorgeous sight. The sun is now setting and the lights from the boats on the river. It's absolutely beautiful.
It is. Michael Collins has been spending this whole weekend just kind of hanging out. Right now he's hanging out on the public landing, so let's go to him. Mike?
I don't know. I think this was probably more thrilling than the fireworks. God Bless America just sent chills up my spine. Or America the Beautiful, that was the song. I lost my... You've been down here all weekend. What's your name?
Corey Dolan.
Yeah, and what were you telling me before? What was your favorite part?
When the Delta Queen and the Belle Louisville were racing, it was just the neatest thing I've ever saw, and we were right up on them on a towboat, the Clary Beatty.
And you lived on a boat for a while, huh?
5 years.
And kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And here's some other people who have been here all weekend, haven't you? Did you find a place to park, or did you just camp out all weekend here?
Parking was fantastic. We took a shuttle at Park Crest and came on down and got a bus. Got off on the plaza here.
How many boats have you guys been on this weekend?
This week?
Not on any of them because they were all sold out.
Yeah.
But
So you just came down here and watched?
Right. For the whole day, practically, Friday. The weather was gorgeous and everything just was so well organized.
Everybody has had a wonderful time here. And did you have something? What's that?
City. Great honor to our city.
It sure is. Jerry and Norma?
All right, thanks a lot, Michael. It was an honor to the city and an honor to the people to be here. It was absolutely wonderful.
We're on the map. People know we're no longer America's best-kept secret. They know we exist.
That's right. While there's been entertainment all weekend long on the riverfront, there's also been a lot of things to do, not just for you or yourself, but for the whole family.
No matter what kind of music you like, chances are you heard it down on the riverfront this weekend. There was the all-American Dixieland sound of the Cincinnati Dancing Pigs. Vintage jazz by Cincinnati's own Kathy Wade. And members of the Junior Strings Fiddle Factory provided some classic elegance. Other attractions included a petting zoo and magicians, and kept thousands of kids entertained.
1, 2, 3, we'll make this ball vanish.
Well, we had entertainment, but we also had a couple of mysteries to solve. Is there buried gold on the banks of the Ohio? Well, our UC students looked into that story.
I've got another story for you. Did you know there's over $1 million in gold buried right here in Ohio? Well, I'm just pulling your leg. It ain't really true. But there's a man that went looking for it anyway. And this is his story.
When I was a boy, about 8 years of age, my granddad called me into his den. After locking the door, he reached into his oak cabinet and pulled out an old metal box. There may be $2 million, he said to me, buried in a chest halfway up the hill across the river from Coney Island. I know. My own grandfather buried it there. Well, he pulled some old worn notes from the chest and handed them to me. These are the notes that I wrote while sitting at your great-great-grandfather's bedside just before he died. They tell exactly where and how the treasure came to be buried. The whole story. It's here. Well, I told him right then that I didn't want to get involved, ever. I couldn't possibly go looking for buried treasure. So my granddad made me promise to tell the story, either to my children or to my grandchildren, in the hope that they would seek it out. I think he considered the story something of a last will and testament, or even a confession, something he just had to get off his chest. I took the worn papers in my hands and began to read. My part in the secret plot began when I was selected to be one of 50 horsemen that escort a huge federal payroll chest from Maysville, Kentucky to Fort Washington and Cincinnati. It was April of 1802, and we were riding just one day out of the city through some of the worst Indian country in the region. As we set for camp that night, 2 of my riding partners and I talked out a plan to steal the gold. We would all get guard duty together the next night, sneak the gold chest out, and then bury it a short distance from the camp. We would recover it later after the troops left in search of it. If we moved fast enough, we knew our plan would work. Well, the next night came around, and the boys and I got good and ready. But before we had a chance to move, a wild whooping call cut through the air. It was the Indians. They spilled out of all sides around us. Everything happened so fast. I ran out to the edge of the camp where I found the company sergeant hiding the gold chest. "Give me a hand," he said to me. "The gold should be safe across river." The sergeant and I then dragged the huge chest down to the riverside, where we guided it into the river, strapped to a huge log. But the river ran too high on us, and the current took the log right away, taking us with it. I looked over and saw the sergeant struggling with the current. Then he went under. That was the last I saw of him. The chest, meanwhile, got caught on some rocks by the shore. I swam over to it and managed to pull it up where I'd hid it under some brush. Then I dug a hole and buried it. The next morning, I walked the many miles back to Fort Washington, where I learned that I was one of only 5 horsemen to survive the Indian attack. I told the fort commander that the gold had been lost in the river. But because of his suspicion, there was no way I could leave the camp to get the gold without being followed. So I decided to keep the burial a secret until I could tell my own kin, so that maybe, someday, this whole ordeal could come to some good after all. I must find the gold for myself. I still have the notes. Everything's clear enough. Here's the path that leads right to it. I'm too far in to turn back now. This is it. More than 100 years of history, and now only 3 feet of dirt separates me from a fortune in gold. No, I can't do it. The gold must remain buried forever.